came as Noach as Manav, and God blessed Noach and his children. Nayomer Lahem, and he says to them, Peru Revu Umaluas Arts, be fruitful and multiply and fill the earth. Now, this is to my mind, there's no Rashi on this, but I just want to pause and say, what a verse, what a pasuk. After the destruction of the world, God says to them, it's your responsibility to go out and have children. You cannot just stay back. It's your responsibility to go out and have children and fill the earth. You have to repopulate the earth. And many survivors felt this keenly. They felt this responsibility. Many of them didn't want to have children after the Shoah. They didn't want to continue. It would have been easier for them just to give up, but they felt they had a special responsibility. And I'm sure that many of the survivors of this massacre probably don't want to be alive for a second after their families were murdered, to be without them. But there is this tremendous responsibility to fill the earth. So now, pasuk bet, the second verse tells us, "Umorachem v'chitchem." Hold on one second. He says, hold on. Okay, so he says, "Mora'achem v'chitchem," your fear and your dread, al kol chayat haaretz, will be over all the creatures of the earth, al kol hashemayim, and all the birds of the heaven, chol asher termos ha'adama, whatever crawls on the earth, v'kol degei hayam, and whatever is the fish of the sea, b'yadchem nitanu, will be placed into your hands. So now we're being told that Hashem is saying to Noach, you're going to have dominion over all the animals of the earth. And this is a very powerful Rashi. Comes from the Gemara in Shabbos. Rashi says, V'chitchem, your fear emaschem, they'll be afraid of you. Kamo tiru, chatat means tiru chatat, like you see my dread. V'agada, and the Agadah, the homily, is Lashon Chiyus. It's an expression of a life force. What does that mean? Rashi tells us the following. Kol zman shetinok ben yomo chai, as long as there's a child who's 1 day old. I was actually thinking about this when I was able to see a 1 day old this week, and I held my 1 day old granddaughter. I was thinking of this Rashi. As long as there's a tinok ben yomo chai, a child who's 1 day old who's alive, you don't need to guard this child, this baby, from the mice. But Og Melech Habashan mace, but you can have a giant, King Og, and he'll die, this 6-foot giant. You need to guard him from the mice. The mice can sense when there's a baby, when there's living life there. As says Morachem v'chitchem, that the Morachem, the fear, and your chitchem will be. When will there be your fear? When you're alive, the animals will be afraid of you. So this is the concept. When you're alive, the animals will be afraid of you, and so the animals will be afraid. But I don't know if it's true about rats. Rats are not afraid of anyone, but the mice, they're afraid of the living creatures. So they're afraid of a human being, even if it's only 1 day old. But they know when you're dead, and they'll eat you. My friend once, he had a rat problem in his garage, in his commercial garage. So he brought in a German Shepherd he thought would take care of the rats. And the next morning, he found the German Shepherd like destroyed by the rats. The rats This was New York City. Yeah, the rats just ganged up on the German Shepherd and took care of it. Yeah. What do you think of that? So now we the rats are the geniuses. You know that a rat is in there's one of the four animals in the Washington Zoo, which is in the genius cage. One of the four is the rat. Another one is from this week's parsha. Do you know which other one, which is from this week's parsha, which is in the genius exhibit at the Washington Zoo? It's from this week's parsha. It's Parshas Noach. Does anybody know which one? Anybody know? Is that in this week's parsha? No, elephants are not in the parsha. I'll give you a hint. This one has a major role. Anybody know? You can chime in. Anybody know? So the answer is the raven. Raven is a genius. Raven is a genius. Raven can actually pick the lock on your car. Yeah, you can get into your car. Okay, so now the verse states, "Will be called the gay ayam from all the fish of the sea." We just read that. Then it says, "Kol remes asher chai," any creeping, crawling creature which is alive, will be for you to eat. Kiyarek Esav natati lachem et kol. Yeah, if you like those cookies, I could tell you that my friend baked those cookies as a fundraiser for United Hatzalah, which is a beautiful they're medics in Israel. They run to the terrorist attacks, and many of them actually were severely wounded in the massacre. Some were killed, and so I saw she was doing a fundraiser. So we got 10 dozen, and we gave that money to support United Hatzalah. Yeah, so it says, all the creatures that are alive for you will be to eat. Like the vegetables like the grass and the vegetation, like the herbal greenery, I gave to you all the fish all the creepy crawly creatures to eat. So this is before we have the laws of being kosher. So let's see what Rashi says. Now you can eat these creatures that move, everything that moves. Rashi says, "Shaloer sheiti adam arishon basar." Here's the source. Everybody prior to Noah was a vegetarian. Everyone prior to Adam to Noah was a vegetarian. All they could eat was the vegetation. So Lachem Kiyara Kesav. But to you, basically, Rashi saying that God's allowing Noah to eat everything. So that's the source. That after the flood, man was allowed to eat meat. Why do you think that's the case? Why do you think that's the case? That after the flood, man was allowed to eat meat. So it's practical, but
I don't know. There's some. I guess reciprocity wouldn't really be the word, but
because he saved them, now he could eat them. It's almost like he's now killing his roommates.
Masters over them.
No, he's killing his roommates. But yeah, no.
I'm just thinking, this is it's after the fall, it's after man's lapse. When first God Eden, forced out of God Eden, and then the world falls apart, and there's a new world, and it's a world where we're living with imperfection. And so the meat is part of it.
So it's no longer the ideal world, we're now in the real world. All these are good answers. So it's like the imperfect world, and we strive to come back to the perfect world where it's vegetarian. I was also thinking that it's possible that God is saying, look, there was violence man needs an outlet for the violence, that you can't get that outlet, then man will take out the violence on other humans. So we're going to give you a space where you can be violent, and that's on other animals, but not on humans. Because it's kind of works with your answer, but because it's saying like man can't live like Gandhi, like just the perfect, irenic world. It's not going to work on a. So you have to do a little bit to get it out,
There's also like the stewardship, right? And so you're not supposed to, you can't abuse animals.
You can't abuse it.
Constraints.
Yeah, you're not allowed to cause pain to the animals, but you are allowed to eat them. You're not allowed to cause unnecessary pain. You're allowed to cause pain if it's for your benefit. You can't cause pain in a cruel manner just for the sake of causing pain. And even if you're going to eat it, it's not a license to cause all the pain that you want. Like, for example, rabbis have talked about foie gras being prohibited because it's painful, or veal. For many years, I haven't even though I eat meat because supposedly it's cruel the way the veal is produced. Okay, so, verse 4. Ach basar benafsho damo lo t'chelo. But even though you can eat the meat, you can't eat the meat with its soul, i.e., its blood. That you can't eat. You can't eat the blood. Rashi says, "Asar lahem aver minachai." Okay, so now we have one of the 7 Noahide laws. You know that there are 7 Noahide laws, laws that Noah was supposed to observe. What are those 7 Noahide laws? But this is one of them. He prohibited to them to eat a limb from a living animal. A limb that you detach from a living animal, you can't eat. As long as it's alive, you can't eat the flesh, and you can understand the temptation for this because you want it to be fresh. You want, let's say you're going to eat the leg of the chicken or the leg of the cow. You don't want to cook it. You don't want to kill it, then it spoils. So you just cut it off and then you just cook it straight, and it's fresh. So that's a prohibition. I should just pause and say that there are 7 Noahide laws. Do you know what they are? This is one of them. This is the Aver Menachai. The way to remember this is there's the Aleph, Bet, Gimel, Dalet, and then the big 3. What are the big 3? Idolatry, murder, adultery. So that's the big 3. So then there's the Aleph, Bet, Gimel, Dalet. Aleph is Aver Menachai, limb. Then the Dalet is the din. You have to set up a judicial system. Then what is the Bet? The Bet is Birkat Hashem, that you're not allowed to curse God. And the Gimel is theft. So those are the theft. So those are the 7 Noahide laws. Okay. And then it states, V'ach etimchem and nafshotechem edrosh, and your blood of your souls I will seek. I'll seek it out from every beast. We'll see what that means. But of man for his brother, I will demand the soul of man. Rashi says, even though I permitted for you the taking of a soul, i.e., behema, I allow you to kill an animal. Even though you're allowed to kill an animal, I'm going to seek out the blood of somebody who kills others. So that means your soul, even though there's no blood. If you kill him without taking blood, you might think that's a loophole. Nope. Miyad kol chaya edrashenu, from every beast I will seek it. Afishachatu doramabel, because the generation of the flood had sinned. V'hufkeru l'machal chayot ra'ot, and they were cast loose to be eaten by bad animals. L'shlot bahen, as it states, nimshal kebeimot midnu. Other bad animals are ruling them. Therefore, so So this is ironically, the Torah is warning the animals here that they have a mitzvah that they're not allowed to kill the humans. So that's a little ironic, like who's reading the Torah? But what was on this portion when we went to visit Rabbi Steinsaltz, Jeff helped arrange that many years ago. And I went with Rabbi Steinsaltz, I went with a group. I think Aviva was on that trip. You weren't there. And we went with David Schoen and his son Arthur. Arthur just had a baby this past Sunday or Shabbos. Yeah, his wife. And Arthur asked Rabbi Steinsaltz, basically here we're saying that the animals are being commanded. And he said, do animals have souls? Do animals have souls? And Rabbi Steinsaltz pointed to a Ramban, commentary of Nachmanides on Parashat Noach, which indicates that animals have souls. So there you have it right here. There you have it right here. Miyad ha'adam, miyad ha'oreg b'mezid ve'ein edim ani yodosh. So God says if you kill a person intentionally, but there are no witnesses, God will punish him. Miyad ish achiv, each man of his brother. Shu ohev lo ka'ach. He loves him like a brother. Varago shogeg, and he kills him unintentionally. Ani adrosh, I will demand it. Im lo yigleh, he does not go into exile. V'yivakesh avono imachel, and he seeks that his sin be forgiven. Sha'af hashogeg tzarech kapara. Even somebody who kills accidentally requires atonement. Okay, now this next verse. Oh, actually, we just finished the Rashi. If there's no testimony, verse, we're still reading verse 5, the Rashi. And I'm reading the Rashi. If there are no witnesses to obligate him to exile, and he doesn't go to exile, don't worry about it. God is going to make sure there's justice. As it states, God will arrange that the fate of the world happens. Meaning, say, if you think that there were no witnesses, so you're escaping punishment, God will cause that person who killed intentionally to be killed by somebody who killed accidentally, and now we'll have to go into exile. This next verse is a very, very important verse because let's see what the verse is. Shofech dam ha'adam ba'adam, one who spills the blood of another person in a person, damo yishafech, he is spilling his blood. Because with the image of God, God made man. So Rashi does not comment on this, but the Talmud talks about this as one of the sources against abortion, because it says the blood of a man inside a man, his blood shall be shed. So someone would point to this and say that abortion is biblically prohibited, but it's not so simple, obviously, and it's not so simple. So I would not categorize the rabbinic tradition as universally saying that abortion is a murder, but those who do think that cite this verse. So they cite this verse as it states, "Ba'adam damo yishafech," a man among man his blood shall be shed. If there are witnesses, you put him to death. Why? Because in the image of God, man was created. As it states, it's an incomplete verse. It needs to be asa usa et adam, the maker made man, and so too harbeva mikra. There are many such verses in the scripture. So Rashi is telling us that there are verses which are kind of elliptical verses, that they're abbreviated. They're not fully abbreviated. They're not full verses. Oh, John, I think our soup is coming to the end, but now I'm not going to be here for a week, but if you made a soup, Like Ben would eat it, probably.
Also,
Ben would eat it, and then people could still come in and learn even without me and study Torah. Or we could just tell Ben to like be on his own, starve. All right, all right. Well, you guys will talk afterwards, John. And John's our soup maker. Okay, so we'll just say one more verse before we dive in mincha, verse 7. Oh wait. So kibitzelma kimasatam va'atem peru ravu shurtu v'aretz ravu ba. And now again we have this commandment to be fruitful and multiply in the earth. So why does it need to say it twice? Of course, Rashi addresses this. Anytime there's such a textual question, like why does it say it twice? You can be sure that Rashi will address it. Rashi says, "Lafi pshuto." The simple explanation is Harishona Livracha. The first time it said, when we started our discussion today, be fruitful and multiply, it was a blessing, meaning to say, I'm going to help you be fruitful and multiply. I bless you that you be successfully fruitful. Vikan utzivoy. But now he's commanding him, you have to do it. First time he's blessing him and saying, okay, I'm not just blessing you, I'm commanding you. But if he midrasho, it's very harsh. But the midrash is saying that if you don't try to engage in being fruitful, then it is equivalent to shedding blood. So obviously today is very painful. Some people try, they're not able to. But it's not saying that you have to be successful. But if you have an opportunity, you have an approach that people say, I don't want to have children. There is such a theory in the world that they're against having children, that they say we're worried about population control. And in fact, you could argue that that's where Western society is going. The maternity wards are empty and people don't want to have children anymore. It's expensive. People don't want to do it. People are living longer. Yeah, so such an approach is the opposite of the Torah. The Torah says you're commanded, and Rashi is even harsher. If you don't want to have children, you're shedding blood. But I would say also this whole idea of a singles community, like it's a very big question. How do singles integrate into the Jewish community, into synagogue life, into a lot of Judaism is based around families. It's very, very hard for singles. Very hard for singles to remain connected to the Jewish community. So Rashi, this whole idea of a singles community is a phenomenon that did not exist pre-World War II. Did not exist because what happened was there was no such thing. When you turned whatever age, 15, 16, 17, you were married. They married you off. It wasn't, I need to find the girl I love, or no, you had no choice. You were married and they married. It was a business arrangement, obviously love would come eventually. Hopefully that would be the hope, but there was not an option of remaining single until such time as you're able to, or whatever. There wasn't an option. So this is a new phenomenon, the idea of the singles community. Like there was no Upper West Side there wasn't an Upper West Side. It's just now, like the last, I don't know, 50, 60 years that we have this phenomenon. Okay, so let's stop the recording and dive in mincha. Also,